With this image, I'm going to do some color correcting to it. Here the image is okay. This was taken with a digital camera down at one of the missions down in San Antonio, and I'm just going to play with some of the layer effects here. In order to create hopefully a little bit more of a dynamic, a little bit more stronger contrast in this image. And so, first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a curve layer. And what I'm going to do, I kind of would like this to look antique-y. And so my first thing, let me crank the reds a bit. It's going to burn it. Well, let me reset that. I need to change. I want to do the red channel first. And I was just doing the whole thing. Most people, basically in curves will come in and with their RGB, they'll just pull down the shadow tones and then crank up the highlights a bit. And you can get kind of a nice image off of that. But by using the different channels here, we can usually, create a more interesting artistic image, I guess you would say, because I want this to look a little antique-y first. And so first I'm going to do the red channel. I'm going to crank up the reds a bit, and then what I want to do is crank up the greens. So let's take the greens down. That's going to push the magenta, but I want it a little greenier, like one of those 70s cameras. And then let me pull some of the blue out. Okay. And let me just now you could grab different points, and pull the, make it a little more, more yellow blowing in there. And I kind of like that. So those are the different channels. Some of the newer versions of Photoshop, it'll actually show you all three channels at the same time. But let's click off. We can see there that it's definitely looking more antique-y. But we can do some more to it to give it more of that antique look that I wanted it to get. And let's go to hue saturation. I'll click onto that. Let me just desaturate it a bit. And let's let the computer catch up. Let's see. Okay, and let's just the hue a bit. Let's pull it back just a little bit. Right about there, I kind of like that. I'm going to hit OK. And so that's kind of an interesting way in order to, playing with these different layer effects to manipulate, change, your photographs a little bit. One thing I'd like to also do, let me go ahead and do a new layer. And let me go ahead and fill that layer in with black. Okay. And whoops. Let's do it black, not middle gray. Okay, so it's black. So let me hide this, and you can see. What I'm going to do on this is I'm going to go ahead and put soft light. Actually, let me just overlay it. And then what I want to do is get the paintbrush. And if I paint in, let me change that the foreground color to gray. I can paint in and kind of have it a little, it creates this mask basically on the photo itself. Let's see. Computer's running a little slow. Let me blow this up a little bit. Okay. Pull this down to get it on the screen. You can see there. Let me turn this off. Basically, I've kind of darkened in the edges. It's giving that kind of halo glow kind of effect or look. You could actually do this in stages. If you wanted a more like that true ore kind of glow on it, you bring in some more. Let me just bring these stones in just a little bit more, and a little bit there. We could adjust the quality. Right now I have kind of a diffused brush right now. You could, create a harder brush. I think the diffused ones work a little better on this. Let me do one more thing here. Let me group these together. Whoops. Let's go group layers. And let's call this color 1. What I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and duplicate these and then turn them off. Basically what's happened now, since both of these are on, it's just amplified that kind of look. Let me shrink it down a bit. And let me go ahead and turn off this bottom one. With this grouping here, I have the same thing, the hue, the curves. If I wanted to adjust the hue or whatever in it, I could, I could take it up, take it down, whatever I'd want to do. So if anytime you want to change one of these layers, remember you just double click on it and, you can go in and change, your points of your reds or your blues if you want it to look different ways. Crank the blue there a little bit. You may like that. I think that's kind of interesting looking. Just hit reset and then cancel to take it back to what it was. One thing we can do too is try by having these different groupings. Let's call this color 2. color 2. What we can do is let's go ahead and like try different ones. Soft light's a great one for photography. Let's hide this top here. You can see the difference. Let's go ahead and leave that on. By putting that mask there, I'll show you what it looks like, just so you know. Again, it's basically it created a little amoeba form there, but basically by painting in middle gray on top of this black and having that layer effect set to overlay, we create that kind of that nice strong contrast on the edges, which is a nice feature that you can use. And so here we have this on soft light. Let's try overlay. Another option I want to show you is, let's hide those. We can do filters as well. Move this up a bit so you can see the option I'm clicking on, photo filter right here on the bottom. And what we can do is we have these different photo filters we can apply. Here's warming filters. We can do a cooling filter, violet, whatever you think would be deep yellow. So these different ones, we can change the density, kind of burn it into the color a little bit more, and so we can get some nice interesting looks off that. Let's apply the little darkened tone around the outside there. So we can create some real interesting dynamic images by using these different layer effects on our original photos. Oh, and one more, let me turn off the that one halo glow that we did. Just let me show you how, that halo glow. You can also do this with gradients. Let's do a new layer, and it's new blank layer. And I'm going to come over and get the gradient tool. And I have the gradient on just black to white or black to gray one. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply pull out a gradient from one side to the other and let the computer render. Let's do it a little smaller. Okay. Let's start the black up a little higher. And then what I can do is go ahead and overlay that onto the top. The first one you can see, let me close it off. You can see how it creates kind of an interesting glow across there. Let's try soft light and see if there's any difference there. I don't think there's a little bit of difference there. And so that's another option, is to use a gradient. You can try different types of gradients too. Let's try the regular. Let's see, we'll come from the other side, and we'll put one in. So here we have the, basically gives that chiaroscuro kind of look, that strong light to dark effect as well. And so that's an option that you do have, applying these, gradients on there and overlaying them. And if the effect is too strong, remember, you can always pull it down a bit, take it all the way out, and we'll crank it all the way up, kind of like that. It's kind of an interesting image, using the gradient tool there in order to create these nice, shadow tones that are growing across. And if a part is too strong, we can always go back in and let's soften this a bit over here. Let's see, there it goes. I'll show you the difference I made. The computer's taking a couple seconds here to render. And okay, there he goes. Let me go scroll back up here and so I can show you what I did. Go down a little bit. There it is. Let me click on, let's go here. You can see that might have been too burnt out. This area might be too burnt out for you. So I just got the brush with the same middle gray and just put it across there. And that kind of softened that a bit. So let's see what that looks like without and with. Let's go ahead and take off that photo filter as well. And we'll go back to the original image. That was the original image that I shot down at the mission. I forget, that's the one at the end of the trail. I forget which one that one's called. Applying the gradient, and here's the photo filter. And let's take the photo filter off and look what it. That's the one with the aura glow. So you can do two different gradients if you wish. They're both overlaid. Let's try with the that color's not going to change too much, but we'll change with the altered, the antique kind of look as well. And so you have a lot of different ways of changing and altering these photos. You can see here I have the original with the hue and saturation that I placed on here, and then applied a photo filter, and then had the aura glow, and then have the gradient on there as well. So I almost changed the direction of the highlight and the shadow there. So that's some options you have when altering photographs.